Could it be that you've mistaken numbness for peace? I need you to sit with that question for a second, because I think a lot of us, myself included, have convinced ourselves we've moved on from things we've actually just stopped feeling. We think we're healed because we don't cry about it anymore, because we can talk about it without our voice shaking, because months or years have passed and we're still standing. But here's what nobody tells you. Not feeling something doesn't mean you've processed it. Sometimes it just means you've buried it so deep you forget it's even there. That's not healing. That's hibernating. And the thing about buried pain, it doesn't stay buried. It shows up in ways you don't recognize. In the silence that feels too heavy. In the dreams you can't quite remember, but wake up exhausted from. In the way your temper is shorter than it used to be. In the distance you keep between yourself and everyone who tries to get close. You think you're fine. You might even be functioning fine. But fine isn't free. Let me tell you how this happens. Something hurts. Really hurts. A loss, a betrayal, a trauma, a heartbreak, something that cracks you open. And in that moment, you have two choices. Feel it or escape it. Feeling it sounds impossible. It feels like drowning. Like if you let yourself fully experience the pain, you'll never come back up for air. So you choose escape. You stay busy. You throw yourself into work, into new relationships, into projects, into proving you're okay. You say, "I'm fine," so many times you start to believe it. You avoid the songs, the places, the people, the memories. You restructure your entire life around not triggering the thing you're not dealing with. And it works. For a while, you stop crying. You stop staying up at 3 a.m. replaying it. The pain becomes background noise instead of a siren. And you think, "See, I'm healing. Time healed it. I'm moving on." But what actually happened is you learned to live around the wound instead of healing it. You became an expert at not touching it, at not thinking about it, at numbing yourself just enough that you can function, but not so much that anyone notices you're not really here anymore. And here's the thing. Numbing isn't selective. You can't numb the pain without numbing everything else. You can't shut down the hard feelings without also shutting down joy, connection, presence, aliveness. So you end up in this weird middle ground where nothing hurts too much, but also nothing feels amazing either. Everything's muted, life is manageable, but not meaningful. You're safe, but you're also hollow. That's not peace. That's a coping mechanism you never upgraded from. Real peace doesn't require avoidance. Let me say that again. If you have to avoid certain memories, topics, places, or people to stay okay, you're not at peace. You're managing symptoms. Peace means you can think about what happened and feel sad without falling apart. You can acknowledge the loss without it destroying your day. You can tell the story without your nervous system going into fight or flight. Numbness, on the other hand, requires constant maintenance. You have to keep the feelings locked down. You have to keep busy enough that you don't have time to think. You have to keep people at a distance so they don't ask the questions that would crack you open. You have to keep your life carefully arranged so you don't accidentally trigger yourself. That's exhausting, and eventually it stops working. Eventually, the feelings leak through in ways you don't expect. You snap at someone you love for something small. You cry over a commercial that has nothing to do with your life. You feel inexplicably heavy on random Tuesdays. You're tired all the time for no reason your doctor can find. Your body is carrying what your mind refuses to process. And the scariest part? You might not even connect the dots. You might think you're just anxious or depressed or burnt out, without realizing you're reacting to unprocessed pain from years ago that you convinced yourself you were over. Here's the truth you probably don't want to hear. You can't skip the feeling stage. You can delay it. You can avoid it for years, but you can't skip it. Healing doesn't mean talking yourself out of the pain or understanding it intellectually or reaching some enlightened place where it doesn't matter anymore. Healing means feeling what hurts, not all at once. God, no, not all at once. That's not healing, that's re-traumatizing, but piece by piece, memory by memory, feeling by feeling. You have to let yourself be sad about the thing that made you sad. You have to let yourself be angry about the thing that was unfair. You have to grieve what you lost, even if it was years ago, even if everyone thinks you should be over it by now. You have to feel it to free it. And I know that sounds terrifying. I know the whole reason you buried it in the first place is because feeling it felt impossible. But here's what I've learned. The anticipation of the pain is worse than the actual feeling of it. When you finally let yourself sit with a memory you've been running from, when you stop pushing it away and just breathe through it, something shifts. It doesn't destroy you. It doesn't swallow you whole. You feel it, and it moves through you, and then it's lighter. Not gone, but lighter. That's how real peace begins. Not by pretending it didn't hurt, not by convincing yourself you're over it, but by acknowledging that hurt, that was real, I'm allowed to still feel it. I'm not going to tell you to process everything today. That's not how this works. But here's what you can do. Sit with one memory. Just one. Pick something smallish. Not the biggest trauma of your life. Not the thing that shattered you. Start with something manageable. A moment you usually skip over. A feeling you usually shut down. A thought you usually distract yourself from. Sit with it, not to solve it, not to understand it, just to feel it. Close your eyes if you need to. Put your hand on your chest. Breathe. Slow, deep breaths, and let yourself feel whatever comes up. Sad? Let yourself be sad. Angry? Let yourself be angry. Scared? Let yourself be scared. Don't run to your phone. Don't turn on the TV. Don't start making a to-do list or planning dinner or thinking about anything else. Just be with it for 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes if you can. That's it. That's the practice. You're not trying to get over it or let it go or reach some conclusion. You're just practicing feeling without running. You're building the muscle of staying present with discomfort. And if it's too much, if you feel yourself starting to spiral or dissociate or panic, stop. Open your eyes. Feel your feet on the floor. Look around the room and name 5 things you can see. You're in control here. You're not drowning. You're just dipping your toes in the water you've been avoiding. Here's what I want you to know. The fact that you're still affected by something from your past doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're human. And humans don't get over things. We integrate them. We learn to carry them differently. We find ways to honor the pain while still moving forward. But we can't do any of that if we're pretending the pain doesn't exist. You're allowed to still be healing from something that happened years ago. You're allowed to realize you thought you were over it, but you weren't. You're allowed to go back and do the grief work you skipped the first time. That's not regression. That's courage. Real peace isn't about not having pain. It's about not being afraid of your pain. It's about knowing you can feel it and survive it and come out the other side still intact. And you can. You absolutely can. But first, you have to stop running. Tell me the truth. What memory still lives in you quietly? Not the one you talk about. Not the one you've processed to death in therapy or with your friends. The one you don't talk about. The one you've learned to step around. The one that still makes your chest tight when it crosses your mind, so you immediately think about something else. Write it down below. You don't have to share the whole story. You don't have to explain it. Just name it, even vaguely. The thing from 2019. What my dad said. The friend who left. The version of myself I lost. Just name it. No judgment, no shame, just acknowledgement. because someone else is facing that same silence. Someone else is walking around that same wound. And your words, just naming it, might give them permission to stop pretending they're fine too. If this hit you somewhere real, subscribe. We're talking about the uncomfortable truths every week, the ones that actually set you free, not the ones that just sound nice. And if you know someone who's been saying "I'm fine" a little too convincingly, send them this. Not because they're broken, but because healing can't start until we stop pretending we don't need it. You don't have to be over it by now. You just have to be willing to feel it. That's where real peace lives.